Okay, I honor all decent, benevolent beings in the universe who happen to see this video whenever you watch this video. This is dedicated to any of you out there, sincere, legitimate folk, okay, whoever you are. The reason why all the recordings on YouTube lately, as of late, is showing no title, is just saying going live, no hashtags, no instructions, no subtitles. And that's because I am not attempting to, this is not for trending, like, shares, follows, and subscribes. And it's not for, this is intended for those that whoever ends up landing on it. If you land on it, and I don't have any of the tags, I don't have any of the hashtags, I don't have any titles, things for the algorithms to pick up and circulate it based on that, then chances are when you see it, it might be for you unless you're one of my stalkers. But this is dedicated. First and foremost, I want to say, I get you. I understand. Okay. I know what you're dealing with. And if you're not finding that in your physicality and reality, I know it's not much. I know it can't replace having that camaraderie with like-minded people. Okay. I get that. But I care. Okay. And I know what you're dealing with. I know it's real. And I know what you be thinking and feeling. So let's get to the topic. Now, this is for those that are not targeted, and maybe you love those who are. And you don't get this, you don't understand it, you don't believe it. But whatever reason, your senses are starting to kind of low-key kick in. It's making you kind of wonder, like, okay, maybe there is more to things. Maybe there is. Okay? I say this all the time, and this is not just specific to me or my situation in my life. Okay? This is just common knowledge. Unless you're around someone 24 hours a day, nonstop, you really don't know. I don't know. And that's the bottom line truth. Okay, that's just the name of the game of life. We all hear stories, we find out stuff about somebody, and for 35,000 years, there was no one on the planet that would have ever thought or believed that something was happening. And what does that mean? That means that the whole entire time that the stuff was happening for those 35 years, that nobody believed that. Do you know what kind of trauma that inflicts on a person who is undergoing something like that, but the world doesn't believe it? Because it's speculation. Innocent until proven guilty. Because it's subjective. Because the criminals happen to be criminal and professional enough to keep this stuff on the low. This includes any abusive dynamics. This is why there's always that shock factor to situations and families and stuff, because it's like, oh my gosh, no, you know. So this is what I want to say. I'm going to pose to the world out there that's watching this when you see this video. And I'm going to appeal to Christians first. And I can do that because I grew up in church like most African Americans. My ancestry was colonized. So all of that stuff is hardwired into the cellular structure, the spinal fluid, our entire genetic makeup. Okay? If you are a Christian and you're hearing this, if you consider yourself a Christian, even if you're not somebody who's going to church, because a lot of people, they talk that, but they're not doing any of the things. Okay, they're not Everything is not lining up. So this applies to whether you consider yourself a traditional Christian or you consider yourself a more liberal modern Christian, where you just, it's in your heart, but you believe that you hold to Christian value. If your life, let's just say for fun and playing devil's advocate for shits and giggles and for fun, and you were a Christian and you were in a situation and your life is an upheaval, whether it's fully your fault or not, but you and your children's life is in an upheaval, and you're making your way through, whether that's you're trying to connect with family, you're trying to maybe find somewhere to live, suitable for your life and all of those things. If people told you, I want you to reflect on this and answer it honestly. There's no right or wrong answer, and many of you are going to have mixed answers, and many of you don't really know what you would feel and think, because until you're in the situation, you kind of don't know. How would you feel? I'm appealing to the Christians. How would you feel if that person told you they felt uncomfortable with your Bible? That they're uncomfortable with that lifestyle, their beliefs are different, and they're uncomfortable with you bringing your Bible, your practices into their environment. Even let's say you said, okay, I respect that you don't think or believe the way I do, and I'm not here trying to recruit you into my Christianity. I'm not here to I'm not fenced to enforce my prayers. I'm not going to be hoovering over you in the night. I'm not going to be sending you subliminal messages. I'm not going to be trying to ask you to church every day. And let's say you talked, you spoke with them, say, okay, I get that, respect, but I'm not trying to put this on you or any members of your household. So why do you have a problem with my Bible if I am not pushing my Bible on you? And what if this person said, well, I have a problem with your beliefs. We're different and I feel like it's inviting, my beliefs about that. It's inviting things that I don't want invited. Because me and my household, we're Satanists. I'm just, or atheists, or whatever. I'm just saying, how would you feel, Christian, if somebody tried to dictate what you do with you and yourself and I? You, your children. What if you were a preacher? What if you were a preacher that had to preach to people online, and that was a part of what you do? What if you had a job, a pastoral, what if you had a pastoral pay? Because there are some, not all pastors get it, but there are some, depending on the size of the church and stuff, you're actually on a payroll. So technically it is a part of your job. And this person then basically said you cannot bring the Bible, whether that's a digital one or a physical one. I mean, can't nobody really control, technically like digital, but I'm saying if that's something, you would feel, first and foremost, some of you would be calling Al Sharpton, if he's still alive, if you have, because some of y'all would be talking, there's some kind of discriminatoriness, but then you'd move on. If it wasn't big and grand, you might, as a Christian, you might simply move on to find an environment. Okay, because if you're dealing with something on the private sector, that's not something that the government That's not something that they can dictate and control. They can't, go around making people in their homes and their lives be, the people are prejudiced, yes, and there's no law. There's no law. There's no rule that's stopping that. So as a Christian, most of you would simply go through your, interview process, evaluation process, and put that on the list like, okay, this is definitely not something because I cannot be myself. I cannot honor what helps me. Though I'm not trying to intrude on others here, and I certainly, could practice a level of discretion, but I'm not trying to put that on others, but it's not honoring and helping. I'm not able to do the things that honor and help me. So maybe this is not the place. But you would feel some kind of way, Christian. You would definitely feel, even if you didn't say it, even if you smiled and made nice and said, keep on keeping on, and it is what it is, you would still say and feel within yourself, I'm dealing with Christian persecution because this person, even though I have no intention on intruding on their lifestyle, their family, their environment, and becoming a weird cult and shit, trying to make people be saved. It's like you ain't throwing Bibles at everybody, but they have a problem with you, with your personal practice. Doesn't it feel culty? You, Christian, would even say that. You would say it. You would say that you're dealing with Christian persecution and that maybe that person or that place is a cult, because only cults need to dictate and control what people do personally and privately outside of themselves within reason. Because if I was some weird killer in here cutting up chickens and holding up the chicken to the, you know what I'm saying? I'm done sacrificing. Some people are like, okay, scary. They out here cutting chickens, bitch, and saying shit. It ain't for food. So, those who love target individual. I'm trying to honor you to know that, to understand that those are some subtle things. What can you do with that? You make the adjustment. But it's knowledgeable information to know. Because remember, I talk a lot about cult dynamics. Cults are not always big Hollywood. Okay? Whether the world is accepting that this kind of dynamics have been going on for ages, I mean, you can find this out and going to get therapy. It's basically, other words for it is control. Another word for a cult is control dynamics. Because see, many of you are like myself. I've embraced differences, and even as a Christian on that side of it, and people, people drank, they drank. I never stopped people from drinking in my household. I never said that makes me uncomfortable. I mean, it does, but I simply did not participate in it. I knew that I didn't have to participate when I've dealt with environments, Christian and otherwise, where people's lifestyle, okay, whether it is I was welcoming them or they were welcoming me, because I have been on both sides. Now, of course, no drugs, these are some of the physical things, but again, yeah, you can't bring illegal substances. Yeah. Duh. Got churn. But I realized, especially as I grew, the more I grew and matured, I realized first and foremost, my perception about something may not always be accurate. And if I don't want to participate in something, and if I don't agree with something, then I can create that, okay, yeah, maybe not in my common area, drinking, partying, smoking cigs, weed, so these are all lifestyles, and there are some who would argue that it brings an invitation of energies, if you will. There are some who may even believe it's against God, right? So if someone is telling you that, your spirituality, they say they're accepting you. Here's the thing. If people are accepting you, then they're really accepting of you, who you are and what you do. The fact that that's presented, it tells you what you need to know. They do not respect you, who you are and what you do, because accepting is just like if you were to accept that they're Christian or that they're not Christian, or that they're a smoker and drinker, recreational, whatever kind of lifestyle they're. So in a lot of situations that you may have dealt with target and you find yourself in, is to make you subject to control. That's what a lot of it is. To try to squelch who you are, what your choices are. So this is what I want to offer you all. Your safety and security and that of your children is primary. Hold on to your truth. Make all the adjustments you can make to shift. No discussion necessary, because some stuff is really designed to entrap you with that as well. Okay? Now, to eliminate chaos, to eliminate conflicts, to eliminate he say, she say, to eliminate, keep it at the basics, the facts, and the priorities. In my case, I have a disabled son, and he is my priority. And his comfort, his nervous system matters to me more than people's opinions of me, more than what other people's parenting styles and their stance on things. And if something is causing more, if it is trying to create a sense of entrapment and restriction on you. Because what if that's how you made money? Somebody is basically telling you can't make money because they don't agree. It's almost like you were dealing drugs, but I bet you they'd live with and deal with and marry a drug dealer. A gang member. You know why I'm saying that? Because that word subjective, that's not always the best of things in environments, and people have links and ties to a lot of stuff. Sometimes that brings in a whole gambit of things as well. But don't engage. Because remember, a lot of things is designed to provoke you, to make you run, to make you act out in ways to co-sign the narratives that's been created. You're stubborn, you're tripping, you're mental, and you're just everywhere. Even though you know what's going on behind you. So this is what I'm saying. Keep things at the facts. You know that there's lots of talk around you and behind you, and try to minimize, because conflict is where this stuff thrives. Yeah, even people who pretend like they don't like it. it's where it thrives because it makes them look like savior and peacemaker and all of that stuff. So squelch it. I ain't telling you to deny and forget. I'm telling you strategize, but you squelch it. And I'm not telling you to be inauthentic. I'm telling you to be honoring to you and what you and your children need. Your comfortability matters. Your beliefs, your practices, things that help and serve you and your children, it matters. Okay? So I'm not telling you to play, to stoop to anyone's levels. Be sincere. Be who you really are. That's kind of been convoluted behind a lot of bullshit. But then you strategize differently. And when you communicate with other people, communicate simply with facts, stuff that the world can put their hands around, can make sense of, that they can relate to. Because anything else and everything else is going to simply sound like you're crazy, number one, or you're entitled, you're tripping, you're ungrateful. It's gonna keep to the truth, the basics, the facts, and the practical things that the world can relate to. Especially if you're dealing with high-level manipulation. Okay? But there y'all have it. Any of us out here, whether we call ourselves Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Muslim, bitch, Catholic, all the things. Okay? No matter what your life situation is or was or might be, you would take offense, even if you pretended not to. Especially if you're not doing anything to harm or enforce anything onto people. You would be like, what is my Bible, a gun or something? If as a Christian, that's something some of y'all may even say, what? My Bible's a gun? You have a problem with me reading the same thing? Funny thing, they did that in slavery, huh? Don't that smell and sound familiar? Trying to dictate and control what your knowledge can be, what you can read, what you can do, what you can access on their plantation. It's the same thing. And here's what's funny, Christians, I'm going to help you out a little bit. You call yourself a Gemini? You call yourself an Aries? You call yourself a Libra? You call yourself a Scorpio? You call yourself a Taurus? Do you reference that? Do you talk about astrological signs and you reference yourself Christian? Do you use crystals, Christian? Do you know that tarot and divination and astrology and metaphysical things like crystals are all one and the same? Do you know that? Did you look into that? Did you study that? It's all based on energy. It's all based on planetary things. All of it. All of it. All of it is. Did you know that? The hypocrisy and the double standards. When people try to dictate and control with stuff like this, as for me and my house, but they invite other things. This is why I talk the way I do, because there are some who would argue something else. Like maybe that's inviting stuff. Maybe that's what's behind some of the other stuff that people have the privilege to keep secret while other people's lives is under scrutiny. You see, because again, it's perception. It's what we think, it's what we feel, it's what we believe, and what we're running off of. But the point target, and those of y'all who are curious or love and honor targets, nobody should be dictating what someone do as a grown adult if it is not hurting and being projected upon anybody else. If it's not illegal, if it is not bringing, hoodlums and thugs and gangsters and all kind of riffraff that could end up, we hear stories all the time in the news. Just by association. You're not going to hear it about because somebody had a Bible, for those of you who are Christian, and somebody's having a problem with you, bringing your Bible and practicing Christian. You're not going to, and vice versa, those of you who are spiritual. You're not going to hear somebody overdid it with crystal and they start going off and arguing in front of the kids and fighting and throwing shit, nigga. And you ain't going to hear none of that. It made them act out abusively because they held one too many crystals, or they had a tarot card. You ain't gonna hear that. You are gonna hear some other stuff. People on substance, people who, again, drug, alcohol, addictions. You know what I'm saying? Or that gangster thug, street life, night. You gonna hear stories about that. That gang life. You can hear stories about that coming home, knocking on the door. Navigate with the truth and the facts through these situations. What I've learned, targets, is, this is why you all have heard me say this a lot, say nothing else. Because all of your conversations, and not in meanness, I'm not telling you to be mean, I'm not telling you to be cruel, I'm not telling you to be petty, I'm not telling you to be, what they call that, tit for tat. That's immaturity and that's not your vibration. What I'm telling you is it's energy preservation, and it is knowing, much like what's in the Bible. And I like to do that because it's in the books. A lot of stuff, the symbolism is all in the book. Sometimes Jesus didn't speak because he knew what was being done with it. Always attempting to entrap, always attempting to, under Jesus, tell us this, and what about that? And what do you say about that? And how do you feel about that? And what, it wasn't sincere. It was to get ammo, information, intel. How much do you know and how much don't you know? And then to further create the entrapment or the story. He's crazy. He's a madman. Yeah, they said that. He's crazy. He's a madman. He's a devil. He's a devil. Yeah, they said that too. He's crazy. See, that's not what it says, because we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we are the Levites, and we are, and in the scrolls, and we have all of the information. And you didn't wash your hands, Jesus. And you're not supposed to do that, Jesus. And that's against the laws and the rules and the ordinances, Jesus. And it says here in the scroll, and this and that, Jesus, as they whore around in a red light district. And it says, you know, I'm just saying they be like hypocritical. It's like, are you really crushing this man doing something good because it don't fit your narrative? Or is it something else, a deeper thing? Say nothing. Because it's all data to create a narrative. Stick to the facts. Stick to the practical things that the world relates to, that they can make sense of. That's tangible. You're a parent, you're a mother and a father. You have certain knowledge about that skill set, you know, information, education, you know, stuff that can be provable, testable. Like stick to those things, because not everybody even agree with that. But as a parent, it's up to us like, again, what I've learned about the spectrum of autism, but what I've also learned about trauma, what I've learned about the nervous system, all these things that don't have nothing to do with religion or spirituality, is my priority. When I realize what happens with the nervous system, stress, the high sensory, all the things that come with the spectrum, depending on the where they are on the spectrum, and then the age, because that's another factor that some, hopefully, they don't have the unfortunate reality to deal with later in life. But there's a lot that goes along with the age. If you're a parent, what happens to you happens to your child. What happens to them happens to you. If they're not okay, you're not okay. If you're not okay, they're not okay. Period. That's period. And that's scientific. You're going to get that information from any behavioral science, from any psychological, behavioral health, mental health facility, from any modality to do with anything with mental illness, anything to do with the spectrums of various things, such as the neurological stuff of autism. You're going to be able to get that. So stick to that. And trauma is a real thing. And this because a lot aren't aware of trauma, or they think they don't have trauma, or they don't see how their trauma is. That's not really our jurisdiction either. When it comes to us, is what matters. Because once again, stuff ain't our job. We're not here to. It's you and your children. And understanding, like I said, from a good space. This is not a bitterness video. This is not what it is, even if that's what people are interpreted to be. It's not entitlement. This is about observation. And then when people care, if people want to be involved, but all of these things is something that the parent has to evaluate. And it's easy for anybody to not be thoroughly involved and to speculate and have an opinion one way or the other. Also, people wanting to try to parent your kid, that's just not an option. When you love someone, see, and we can't make people be this either. Please catch up Catch up is going to help you. Not in condescension, it's just going to help you. Our culture, some of our cultures fucked us royally, and we don't know that. And we got a lot of cultural pride that's displaced. When I realized, the regrets I carry as a parent from my ignorant years and from all of the poor decisions and the manufactured chaos and bullshit that created some of the bullshit forced decisions. Because that's a thing. I hate what my ignorance caused my son up to this very moment. When I realized that trying to force, because here again, because life ain't gonna be this and life ain't gonna be that, and one day, yeah, that's very well and fine. But you know what ain't gonna be what ain't gonna be if they fuck around and die early too soon because of the lack of empathy and love and compassion and sensitivity and a lack of knowledge. The trauma experts, the real ones, they know. You don't force. You don't try to overparent, and you don't force. If there are some real underlying issues, because it's still about the others then. It's about the others. It's like you don't force that. They're not ready. You can't be taking that personal. They're not ready. Their nervous system, there's too much. You don't force that. The priority becomes about regulation. It's not about integration with everyone else. It's stabilized. And then from a comfortable place, and I even take on this approach with little ones, like babies and stuff. I gauge them. I do. I gauge them. If they're feeling like they don't want to sit with me and don't want me, I'm not going to come over here to you. I'm like, nope. Let them get comfortable. It don't matter. Let them get comfortable. Because it's not that they're a baby. It's not about my feelings. It's not about me. It's not about trying to make them. Let them get comfortable. Let them feel safe. And if you're dealing with someone on the spectrum, and people cannot, because if they knew somebody who knew somebody, whatever the case may be, they're on the spectrum. And if you been parenting like me, I've been parenting my son for 32 goddamn years. I went to Cal State San Bernardino. The programs that I don't know if they have this stuff now, but 1 million years ago, when your children are young and they're in the system in San Bernardino County, these are things that they offer that are free. So you're not listening to somebody who don't know shit. And there was only a short period of time. There was only short, and I say short periods of time where my son was not in my care. Okay, where I've left him to people that I've trusted, babysitters, relatives. And when I was young. But outside of that, short periods of time. Okay, so I think that I would know what's best for my damn son. And I think you would too. And to honor, as you attempt to honor, because that's some of the things you'll have to navigate, as you attempt to honor all things and everyone and where everyone is at, and still trying to hold on to, at the end of the day, I'm still a parent, and if he is regressing, he or she, that matters. But speak on it from, as I said, the matter of fact space. Not the stuff where people are like, oh, they tripping, oh, they imagining, oh, nothing happened, oh, they're delusional, oh, like not from that space, because that's the bread and butter of convincing the world and people to not take you seriously. And anybody who's a parent and actually love their children and, you know, relate from those practicality spaces, then they get it. They get it. Okay? They may not get you as a person. That's what I'm saying. You got to keep, y'all got to follow me. Because stuff is hardwired. They may not get you. It may be a whole lot that's being totally misconstrued and used to control the narrative. So telling a whole lot of people a whole lot of stuff so that you don't have options. Because see, that's an abuse cycle too. You know, going behind you, whispering things. And so as you attempt to make the best decisions for your children, it's like people are looking at you cockeyed, cross-eyed, side-eyed and shit. Because they don't have all of the facts. Or they've already been influenced in a negative light towards you. I'm dealing with that on many levels. But I've been dealing with that for years. I take ownership of my role in things, but I'm going to continue to stand on what I stand on now. And what I know as an adult, but what I've recently had to learn how to swallow and accept, that the world just does not, again, we got to stick practical. The things that's tangible, that you touch, provable things. Because if people aren't there to see your whole experience, listen to me, chances are they're going to be influenced in a different light, and it's going to be leaning towards whatever is prevalent and popular. And that's okay. We take ownership of our stuff. We learn. Then we hold our truth. We change our strategies. We try to be sincere, authentic. We try to show up and all of that. But you deserve a life. I don't care if you've made mistakes. I don't care how many of them you made. I don't care. Most people aren't going to tell you all. They ain't going to lay all their stuff out on the table. I guarantee you that. Okay? So at the end of the day, no matter what that is, and you're really trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and now whether people, again, we don't owe anybody, no matter what, as it pertains to you and your self-improvement and your reinventions and whatever it is you're doing. If you know that you are truly and honestly and sincerely giving it all you've got, you're trying to grow and evolve, you're trying to be sincere and authentic, trying to show for others too, where you can, from the space that you're at, truly and sincerely. Okay, no bullshit, no angle, no game, none of that other stuff. Okay, be that. Truly be that. But remember, a part of being that is also that towards you and your children. Because if you're all of that and you're declining, it's something wrong. If you're all of that, your child is not happy and comfortable, and it seems like there's something wrong. If you're doing all of that, that means, and all that means is this, simply this. that there's an adjustment. We don't have to attach a whole lot of other meaning to it. All it means is that, okay, this is not working. Just like if you go for a job interview and different things, like we all have come across stuff in life where we go, we're not mad at the job. We just realize, you see what I'm saying? You're not hating on the job, and you're not about to try to get the business closed down. You just realize that, oh, okay, this position is not for me. I went on a job interview, whether it's you decide it's not, or the people decide it's not, or both of you decide it's not. It's you ain't hating and they ain't hating. It's, oh, okay, this is not. And in life, sometimes we don't know stuff. And I used to say this years ago, even with jobs, sometimes you don't know until you in it, baby. You can have the conversation, you can have the interviews, and they don't give you all of the information. You sat there, you did the test, you asked the questions, they told you what they are expecting and your expectations, and it seems good and gravy and like it'll work, and you get in there, and 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're like, what the hell? They didn't tell me that I was going to be working like a Hebrew slave, that I was going to be responsible for 4 people's jobs. They didn't tell me all of this. We all know that that's a part of it. You try to get all the information that you can up front, but the way of this world is a lot you just don't know until you're in there. That's why a lot of us get the label, those of us that's always switching jobs, that's why a lot of us get the label as fickle. Because, you know, we get in there and you're like, oh, they on that bullshit, or they're prejudiced, or they're racist, or they're trying to pigeonhole me, or they're trying to, you know, whatever. They're not valuing my work, or they're, you know, and we leave. And some of us 1,000 times over, and guess what? And I ain't judging it. Because we all got something. I ain't judging that. But that's why a lot of us get that label. Okay, you can't stick to something. And then you're over here, you have this job, now you have that job, now you have that job, now you have that. We've gotten those labels. But some of us would argue, yeah, maybe some of it I was young, but then some of it as I grew, it had to do with, you know, this, that, and thus and thou, and so on, so forth. And you ain't carrying a grudge. Oh, I'm going somewhere with this. You're not carrying a grudge. You're not, like I said, it don't become your life's journey and mission to shut down Rappaport. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, because they misled you, you got in there, you dealt with racism, or discrimination against gender, or, you know, the people was jealous of your smartness and bitch, and, you know, and then they got a smear campaign on your ass because they didn't like that you represented order, and then, whoa, like, you just go on. You go, noted. You go, noted, okay. And if it's, once it loses its value for you, once it becomes more of a cost than a benefit, you simply then attempt to shift. But it don't become some kind of weird old vendetta, because you just go on. Oh, okay, I know not to work there. And you try, you simply try, but you realize, hey, this is the name of the game of life. People who know people, because they may be on one. Trying to make sure to blackball you because that, yeah, hey, and what do we do with that? Note it, right? Note it. It's a part of why, for me, you know, Vegas was never a place for me and my son, and it's something that I probably take to my grave, that I forever regret ever doing from the very first time. And I came towards family. Family encouraged that. Yeah, that is the truth. And that's where we initially landed. Vegas No. That is where my son's life, his condition, took a nosedive. And you know how I know it's not just about a house with bricks and walls and ceilings? Because there was lots of periods of time where that was there. And he still declined. He still did. This time around, I thought it would be different due to so much time that had gone by, as well as the resources that I thought I had on a lock. So that's still my fault. Yet another thing that I put on my list of, bitch, what you regret forever until you clear that out. Because it's more than about what it appears to be. But Target, you know that. As you talk to people in this 3D physicality that you are already aware does not perceive that, then you have to stick to the basics and the facts. Vegas is not family friendly, in my humble opinion. It's certainly not conducive for the extrasensory unless, I mean, there's an exception to every rule, but somebody who is basically almost damn near orphaned, he don't have his father. He, you know, there's a whole lot of other things there. It ain't the place for that. He's like a walking target. It's not the place. It's not the place for anybody with any extrasensory nervous system stuff. Good God Almighty, it ain't. It's a lot of bureaucracy. It's a lot of nepotism. It's a whole lot of that. And if you ain't in these, I call them cliques and gangs and circles, whatever language rocks your boat, it's cheap. People come here for that. But I mean, hell, you all, depending on where you are in the U.S. or in the country, you know, again, practical, do what you can. There's a lot of narratives. So my priority is my son, but I also know that's what's exploited. So at the end of the day, facts, void of emotion. Because anything emotional is going to be, there's going to be a ding on that. It's, they're emotional. They're emotional, bitch. They're being emotionals. They're being emotionals. We can't rely on it, can't trust it. There's emotionals. They need medicine. It's the first thing they try. Keep it calm. Now, honor. Find an outlet. And this is the caveat. Because I understand what happens. This is a part of, studying a lot about the physical and energy on a scientific side of it. And, learning a lot about it separate from religion and spirituality. Okay, just studying it. And a part of the problem is the whole, it has to go, this stuff, or else it morphs into other things, perceptions, attitudes, mindsets, decisions, ways of being, one way or the other. Coloring your lens, all of that. So I would say continue to find a creative outlet. Like for me, creatively, I'm going to still honor every bit of who I am, including tarot, until I say and feel different. Okay? But I'm going to also walk in sensitivity, as I always have, who I am. And what I think and what I believe is not something to be projected and bombarded upon anybody. That's the problem with all systems. If I was walking around throwing crystals at houses and putting shit on people's doors, frequency tracks, bitch, get it today. help your life. Like, no. I believe in the opposite, and that's just me. People will be drawn one way or the other, and that's honoring because it's something that they themselves, not because I am projecting and perpetuating my way, I have the way, my way, I have the way, right? So honor your truth, find an outlet, get to a park, get outdoors, creative ways, set your intention so that you can express, so that you can continue to heal, even when there's active, intentional or unintentional energies against it. Back to you, Christian. You might feel some kind of way if somebody tried to stop you from studying the Bible where you rent your room at. You may even scare some of you based on the narrative that you've been told. You may feel scared. Like, what kind of weird children of the corn, bitch, shit my black ass and walked up into, motherfucker, I swear to God. I can't be slave times. You know what I'm saying? You'd be scared. You'd be like, shit, it's slavery days. I was, damn, you would think I was trying to light them on fire or something. And it's okay, because people are, listen, just like we are what we are for reasons, that's the shortcut version. So is everyone else. I gotta go, gotta tend to my boy. See what's going on here. It's hot. Y'all, if there's any legit people who see this, by the time you see the video, we may be in a better space and place and time. But I'm gonna try to create some groups. I'm gonna try to get involved if I can, to build connections, sincere and authentic connections with people, but also, resources that's not government based. That's where I'm at now. If something governmental comes through, of course, I'm not going to be like, no, but my focus is trying to connect and see if I can connect with like-minded people, but also like with mothers, mothers, fathers that's dealing with something, my son's age group, something similar, dynamic, and talk, shoot the breeze, share each other's experiences, and coming from that space. Because when that is truly the priority, that should be all that matters. I don't need people, whether it's these mothers, these fathers, I don't need them to be having the practices that I have for me to honor them. For me to want to participate, for me to want to support. I don't need them to convert. I don't even need a debate and argument. I don't need to place a judgment on them based on the way I feel about how they believe and how I think it may. That's not my damn business, and nor is it theirs. What I am looking for trust me, there was plenty of things in my life that I can attest that negatively impacted my son, for sure. That's my fault. Keeping it practical, remember? So every time I chose some degenerate man, woo, uh-oh. That's my fault. Now, is it a deeper thing behind it? Sure it is. But on the practical side, at the end of the day, it was still, those are things. No. The moving, different locations. Was it other things? Sure it was. But the bottom line, still decisions that cost my son, cost him safety, bring them to the children of the corn. What kind of country ass, bumpkin ass, weirdo ass, fucking subject him to some scar crazy shit. People are, listen, follow me. Because we're not into that. And people think this is like judgy and pretentious. And it's not. We ain't partying and drinking and acting a fool and being loud. But I have subjected him to those environments. Okay, I have. Trying to survive life, making poor decisions and stuff. And it affected him. And it matters. Just like if somebody was getting physically beat down and if somebody can see a physical bruise or some kind of physical negligence and all that stuff. He's got all kinds of traumas. My son won't wear pajamas. He don't want to wear pajamas. Yeah. He has not wanted to wear pajamas ever since Vegas. From 2016. When we had places where we had laundry facilities of our own, I would be able to like wash his clothes a lot as frequent as I wanted to. And I did that because, there was trauma and comfort with the same clothing. And then you have judgy Judgersons with no education, no empathy, no compassion, no knowledge about much pertaining to your situation, looking for something to point the finger at because it distracts from them having to look at their own lives. It keeps people's eyes off of them and it helps them to feel better. But see, these are the things that we got to hone in because again, it's any bit of emotion and all that is going to not be taken seriously and is going to be put into some kind of category. So it's like, okay. Your life under scrutiny while people's life is in secrecy. I guarantee you all these folks with views and opinions and conversations, I promise all they shit ain't on full visual display. Promise. All their mistakes, all their decisions, even their current. People don't know what goes on behind their closed doors. And that's the way it should be. People shouldn't be all up in your peripheral like that. So that's why I'm going to be attempting to reach out to maybe people who could maybe relate more to this kind of stuff. And, maybe I can build some connections with that. And then on the spiritual side, again, it's something that I've been attempting to do because I'm not here to project my life. I feel like that's a waste of energy and time. I also feel like it's dishonoring to individuals who have the right to feel and think and believe the way they do. So I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to condemn and put people in a make-believe hell while they're already in hell, don't know it yet. But I'm not here. What was the name? Cypher and the Illusions. Oh, the comfort of that, huh? But I'm not here to do that. That's not my business. So I am throwing that intention out there. So all of you who your frequency, vibration, and enlightenment causes you to want people to have to go through some kind of frequency hazing, I'm not even talking to you. I'm not talking to you because you're just religion and control systems out of another hole. All right, gotta go. Gotta check on my son. By the way, readings and things that I do, I don't rely solely on the tarot. I'm honoring that. But I can as easily come on if I'm guided and if I meditate and tap in and give the same full readings and message actually without the tarot. Go figure, huh?